Shadows of the Past. The notification tone from Vikram Malhotra's phone pierced the silence of his home office. Another cancellation from another nanny agency. The 42-year-old CEO of Malhotra Technologies rubbed his temples, feeling the familiar pressure of a brewing headache. Outside his window, Mumbai's skyline glittered against the evening sky, a stark contrast to the emptiness that had plagued his penthouse since Nisha's death 2 years ago. Dada? Vikram turned to find his 7-year-old son Vihan standing in the doorway, clutching a worn teddy bear. The boy's eyes, so much like his mother's, held a hesitant question. Yes, Beta? Vikram softened his voice, something he only did for his son. Is Miss Patel not coming back either? Vihan's small voice barely carried across the room. Vikram sighed. No, she found another job. Like the 4 nannies before her, none stayed longer than 3 weeks, citing Vikram's impossible standards or his unpredictable hours. What they really meant was they couldn't handle a grieving child and his emotionally unavailable father. I have interviews tomorrow, Vikram assured him, though his confidence was waning. We'll find someone perfect. After tucking Vihan into bed, Vikram returned to his laptop, scanning through the profiles his assistant had forwarded. One application, submitted directly rather than through an agency, caught his attention. Anya Sharma, 35, with surprisingly extensive experience for someone applying for a nanny position. Something about her qualifications seemed oddly specific, fluent in 3 languages, trained in first aid, and a background in financial management, not the typical nanny resume. The next morning, as his driver navigated through Mumbai's congested streets, Vikram found himself uncharacteristically curious about the last candidate of the day. When Anya Sharma walked into his office at precisely 4:30 p.m., Vikram was struck not by conventional beauty, but by a quiet confidence that seemed to fill the room. Her simple cotton salwar kameez was a far cry from the designer wear that usually surrounded him, yet she carried herself with unmistakable poise. Mr. Malhotra, she greeted him with a firm handshake and direct gaze. Thank you for considering my application. Vikram gestured toward the chair opposite his desk. Your resume is unusual for a childcare position. You have experience in finance? A flicker of something, caution perhaps, crossed her face before she answered. I worked for an investment firm for several years. Family circumstances required a career change. And why childcare? Vikram pressed, studying her carefully. Children see the world as it should be, not as it is, she replied without hesitation. After years of spreadsheets and profit margins, I found myself wanting work with more meaning. Vikram raised an eyebrow. Caring for a 7-year-old boy who lost his mother isn't exactly a reprieve from complexity. I don't seek reprieve. Mr. Malhotra, I seek purpose. Her eyes held his steadily. And I believe I can help your son find stability in his grief. I'm familiar with loss. Something in her tone made Vikram pause. Most candidates had been either overly sympathetic or clinically professional. Anya was neither. She spoke of grief as someone who understood its contours. Vihan is sensitive, Vikram said carefully. He needs consistency. As does every child, Anya replied. May I meet him? 30 minutes later, Vikram watched in mild astonishment as his usually withdrawn son showed Anya his collection of dinosaur figurines, chattering with an animation he hadn't displayed in months. The Brachiosaurus was a herbivore, Vihan explained seriously. That means he only ate plants. Very impressive knowledge, Anya nodded, examining the toy with appropriate solemnity. Did you know they could reach heights of over 40 feet? That's taller than this entire apartment. Vihan's eyes widened. Really? Taller than Dada's building? Well, perhaps not the entire building, she smiled. but certainly taller than this floor. Later, after Vihan reluctantly returned to his homework, Vikram walked Anya to the door. "When can you start?" he asked, surprising himself with the quick decision. "Tomorrow, if that suits you." What Vikram couldn't see as Anya walked toward the elevator was the way her composed expression faltered once she was alone. She pulled out her phone and typed a quick message. "I'm in. Starting tomorrow." The reply came seconds later. "Perfect. Remember why we're doing this. Rohan Kapoor destroyed our family. Through Malhotra, we finally have a way to make things right." Anya slipped the phone back into her purse, a complicated mix of determination and unease settling in her chest. What she hadn't anticipated was the genuine connection she'd felt with the solemn little boy and his dinosaurs, or the unexpected depth she'd glimpsed behind his father's carefully constructed walls. Cracks in the armor 3 months into her employment, Anya had transformed the Malhotra household in ways Vikram couldn't have imagined. The penthouse, once eerily quiet and orderly, now contained evidence of actual living. Vihan's artwork proudly displayed on the refrigerator, the faint scent of home-cooked meals lingering in the air, and most surprisingly, laughter. Vikram paused in the hallway, listening to the animated conversation coming from the kitchen. It was Saturday morning, typically his time to catch up on work while Vihan played video games, but the tantalizing aroma of something sweet had drawn him from his office. "Now fold the batter gently," Anya was instructing. "We don't want to lose all those air bubbles." "Like this?" Vihan asked, his voice carrying a confidence Vikram barely recognized. "Perfect. You're a natural chef." Vikram stepped into the kitchen. Doorway. The sight before him, his son standing on a step stool beside Anya, both wearing aprons dusted with flour, created an unfamiliar tightness in his chest. "Dada!" Vihan exclaimed. "We're making pancakes! Real ones, not from the box!" "I can see that," Vikram replied, his lips curving into what felt like his first genuine smile in years. "Quite the professional operation you have here." Anya glanced up, and something in her expression shifted when their eyes met. A momentary vulnerability quickly masked by her usual composed demeanor. "Would you like to join us, Mr. Malhotra? There's plenty of batter." To his own surprise, Vikram found himself rolling up his sleeves. "I haven't cooked since college," he admitted, accepting the spatula Anya offered. "Some skills never truly leave us," she said, her fingers brushing his as she guided his hand over the pan. "Sometimes they just need the right moment to resurface." Later that afternoon, as Anya helped Vihan with his science project in the living room, Vikram retreated to his study, unsettled by the warmth spreading through his carefully constructed isolation. He pulled up her employment file, scanning it again with newfound suspicion. Her references checked out, but something about her background felt incomplete, as if she were a book with crucial pages removed. His phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. "Malhotra," he answered briskly. "Vikram, it's Pradeep." His legal counsel's voice carried an edge of concern. "Rohan Kapoor's company is buying up shares of Malhotra Tech through shell corporations. I think he's planning a hostile takeover." Vikram's grip tightened on the phone. Rohan Kapoor, his most cutthroat competitor, had been trying to undermine him for years. "How much do they own?" "Nearly 15% already. At this rate, they'll have controlling interest within months." After ending the call, Vikram stared out the window, mind racing. He needed a financial strategist, someone who could outmaneuver Kapoor at his own game. From the hallway, he heard Anya's voice gently correcting Vihan's pronunciation of scientific terms, her patience never wavering. Something about her methodical approach to teaching struck him anew. It reminded him of his former CFO, who could break down complex financial structures with similar clarity. Meanwhile, in the living room, Anya's phone buzzed with a message from her brother, Nikhil. Kapoor's making his move on Malhotra Tech. This is happening faster than we expected. Anya glanced toward Vikram's study, conflict churning inside her. Her family's technology firm had been pioneering a revolutionary green energy solution when Rohan Kapoor stole their research, bankrupted them through legal battles, and left her father with a heart condition that eventually took his life. Her mission had been clear when she applied for this position. Gather information on Malhotra Tech to determine if Vikram was complicit in Kapoor's unethical business practices. What she hadn't planned for was Vihan's attachment to her, or the gradual revelation that Vikram wasn't the cold-hearted tycoon portrayed in business magazines. Behind his reserved exterior was a man drowning in grief, trying desperately to be both parents to a child who reminded him daily of what he'd lost. Anya? Vihan tugged at her sleeve. Why does the plant need sunlight? She refocused, pushing away thoughts of corporate espionage and family vengeance. Well, plants make their own food through a process called photosynthesis. They need sunlight for energy, just like we need food. That evening, after Vihan was asleep, Anya found Vikram in the kitchen, staring into a glass of whiskey. Difficult day? She asked, reaching for a tea bag. He looked up, shadows under his eyes. Business complications? I hope it's nothing too serious. She kept her tone casual while setting the kettle to boil. Nothing I haven't handled before, he replied, but his tense posture betrayed him. Anya hesitated, then spoke carefully. Before I worked in childcare, I spent some time in corporate finance. If you ever need a sounding board... Vikram studied her with renewed interest. What exactly was your role in finance, Ms. Sharma? Investment analysis, she answered, heart racing beneath her calm exterior. Specializing in corporate vulnerability assessment. Vulnerability assessment, he repeated slowly. You mean you identified weaknesses in companies? Among other things, she conceded. It was another lifetime ago. As she prepared her tea, Anya felt Vikram's gaze following her movements, calculating, reassessing. The wall between employer and employee had shifted tonight, revealing glimpses of their true selves on both sides. She hadn't planned to offer her expertise, yet something beyond her mission, beyond her quest for justice, had compelled her to reach out. Later that night, alone in her room, Anya stared at the family photo on her nightstand, her father smiling, arm around her mother, Nikhil, and her flanking them at a company celebration. I'm sorry, Papa, she whispered. This is getting complicated. What had begun as a straightforward infiltration was evolving into something far more dangerous, genuine attachment to the very family she had intended to use as pawns in her game of revenge. Tangled threads. The boardroom fell silent as Vikram concluded his presentation. The quarterly numbers were strong, but the shadow of Rohan Kapoor's aggressive stock acquisition hung over Malhotra Technologies like a gathering storm. We've increased security protocols on all proprietary software, Vikram stated, his voice betraying none of the anxiety that had kept him awake for days. But we need to address the ownership threat directly. Sanjay Mehta, his gray-haired CFO, cleared his throat. Our options are limited, Vikram. Kapoor's shell companies are operating just within legal boundaries. We could attempt a poison pill strategy, but that would devalue our own holdings, Vikram finished. Unacceptable. The meeting adjourned with more questions than answers. As executives filed out, Vikram remained seated, studying the financial projections that offered no clear escape route. He didn't notice Anya until she spoke from the doorway. Your driver asked me to let you know he's waiting. Vikram looked up, momentarily disoriented by her presence in his corporate domain. In his home, she moved with quiet confidence, but here she seemed almost analytical, her eyes scanning the room with subtle assessment. Thank you, he replied, gathering his papers. How was Vihan's field trip? Wonderful. The planetarium was a hit. She hesitated, then gestured toward the scattered financial reports. Difficult meeting? Something in her expression, professional interest rather than mere politeness, made him pause. Over the past weeks, their evening conversations had revealed glimpses of her financial acumen that seemed increasingly relevant to his current predicament. "A competitor is attempting to gain controlling interest in my company," he admitted, "through methods that, while technically legal, are fundamentally underhanded." Anya's pulse quickened. This competitor, would it happen to be Rohan Kapoor? Vikram's eyes narrowed. "How did you know?" "Business news," she replied smoothly, though her mind raced with dangerous possibilities. "His tactics are well documented." The ride home passed in thoughtful silence. Vikram found himself studying Anya's profile as she gazed out the window, wondering what other insights lay behind her carefully composed exterior. That evening, after Vihan was asleep, Vikram found Anya in the small library, her fingers tracing the spines of business volumes he'd forgotten he owned. "You have an impressive collection," she remarked without turning around. "Most were my father's," he replied, moving to stand beside her. He believed understanding market history was essential to navigating its future. Anya nodded, pulling out a weathered book on corporate takeover strategies. "A wise perspective." "Earlier today," Vikram began carefully, "you seemed familiar with Kapoor's methods." She met his gaze steadily. "I've studied similar situations." "In your previous career?" "Yes." She set the book down, her decision made. "Mr. Malhotra, Vikram, I believe I might be able to help with your situation, but it would require you to trust me with sensitive information." The proposition hung between them, laden with implications neither fully understood. "Why would you help me?" Vikram asked, the question simpler than the complex emotions behind it. Anya's answer was equally multifaceted. "Because what's happening to your company isn't just business, it's predatory. And because—" She hesitated, allowing a truth to surface. "Vihan needs stability. Your company's upheaval would affect him too." Later that night, in Vikram's home office, financial statements and corporate structures spread across his desk as Anya methodically identified vulnerabilities in Kapoor's approach. "He's overextended," she noted, circling figures on a balance sheet. "Leveraging future acquisitions to fund current ones. If you could force him to defend multiple fronts simultaneously." Vikram watched her work, increasingly certain that her knowledge extended beyond theoretical understanding. "Where did you learn to analyze corporate structures like this?" Anya's hand stilled. The moment for partial truth had arrived. "My family owned a technology firm," she admitted. "I grew up reviewing quarterly reports at the dinner table." "What happened to the firm?" "It no longer exists." Her voice remained steady despite the pain threatening to surface. "We were outmaneuvered by a competitor." Understanding dawned in Vikram's eyes. "Kapoor?" She nodded once, the simple gesture revealing volumes. "Is that why you're here?" he asked quietly. "Working as a nanny when you clearly have the skills? For corporate finance?" "I needed distance from that world," she answered, the statement true though incomplete. "And Vihan he's special, Vikram. This job became more than just employment very quickly." Across town, in a luxury apartment overlooking Marine Drive, Rohan Kapoor raised a glass of champagne to his team. "Another 2% acquired? Today," he announced triumphantly. "Malhotra won't know what hit him until it's too late." His assistant approached cautiously. "Sir, there's something unusual in today's trading patterns. Someone's buying up shares in our Australian subsidiary, our weakest performing division." Kapoor dismissed the concern with a wave. "Probably just market fluctuation. Focus on Malhotra Tech." Meanwhile, Anya slipped away to her room to make a private call. "Nikhil, I need you to pause our acquisition of Kapoor's Australian shares." Her brother's voice reflected his confusion. Why? We're finally making progress on weakening his position. Because I'm helping Vikram develop a counter-strategy, she admitted. And I can't be working both sides. Anya, Nikhil's tone hardened. Have you forgotten what Kapoor did to Papa? To all of us? Of course not, she whispered fiercely. But Vikram isn't like Kapoor. He didn't know about the theft of our technology. I'm almost certain of it now. Almost isn't good enough, Nikhil retorted. You were supposed to find evidence of his collusion, not join forces with him. I know what I'm doing, she insisted, though her certainty wavered as she ended the call. The following morning, Anya found Vikram in the kitchen before dawn, nursing a cup of coffee, his laptop open to financial projections. You've been up all night, she observed, concern evident in her voice. He nodded, fatigue etched in the lines around his eyes. Implementing some of your suggestions. They're brilliant, actually. The compliment warmed her unexpectedly. Sometimes, an outside perspective helps. Is that all it is? He asked, his penetrating gaze making her pulse quicken. An outside perspective? The question carried weight beyond its simple phrasing, an invitation to honesty, to the truth she wasn't yet ready to fully reveal. For now, she replied softly, let's say it's the perspective of someone who wants to see justice done. As sunlight began filtering through the windows, they remained at the kitchen table, two strategists united against a common enemy, each harboring secrets that threatened to either destroy their fragile alliance or transform it into something neither had anticipated when their paths first crossed 3 months ago. Unraveled secrets. The crisis came faster than either of them anticipated. Vikram's phone rang at 3:17 a.m., jolting him from a rare moment of deep sleep. Pradeep's voice carried the gravity of imminent disaster. Kapoor's making his move. He's called for an emergency board meeting tomorrow, claiming he has evidence of financial impropriety in your overseas operations. Vikram sat upright, instantly alert. That's impossible. Our books are clean. It doesn't have to be true, just convincing enough to spook the board, Pradeep countered. And he's brought in Westridge consultants to present the findings. The name sent ice through Vikram's veins. Westridge had a reputation for manufacturing corporate scandals that could topple even the most stable companies. By morning, the stock would be in freefall. After ending the call, Vikram moved through the darkened apartment toward the kitchen, needing coffee to clear his thoughts. He froze at the sight of Anya already there, laptop open before her, the blue light illuminating her face as her fingers flew across the keyboard. Couldn't sleep? He asked, making her start violently. Vikram! She quickly dimmed the screen, but not before he caught glimpses of financial spreadsheets far more complex than household budgets. I was just working on something other than Vihan's lunch schedule, he finished, reaching to turn on the light. In the sudden brightness, they regarded each other with new wariness. The fragile trust they'd built over shared meals and late-night strategy sessions hung by a thread. I think, Vikram said deliberately, it's time for complete honesty between us. Anya closed her laptop slowly. Yes, she agreed, her voice barely above a whisper. I believe it is. Kapoor is making his final move tomorrow. He's manufactured evidence of financial misconduct. Westridge Consultants? She asked, confirming his suspicion that her knowledge went deeper than she'd admitted. Vikram nodded. You knew this was coming. Not the specific timing, she clarified, but the strategy. Yes, it's his pattern. Tell me who you really are, Anya, Vikram demanded softly. No more partial truths. She drew a steadying breath. My full name is Anya Sharma Desai. My father was Rajiv Desai, founder of Desai Sustainable Technologies. Recognition flickered in Vikram's eyes. The green energy startup that developed solar conversion technology several years ago. Technology that Rohan Kapoor stole, she continued, her voice gaining strength with each word. He infiltrated our company, copied our research, then crushed us with patent disputes and manufactured safety concerns until investors fled. My father died of a heart attack during the legal battles. Our family lost everything. Understanding dawned across Vikram's features. So, when you came to work for me, I believed you were complicit in Kapoor's schemes, she admitted. The technology he stole from us appeared in modified form in products your company distributed in Southeast Asia. I had no knowledge of its origins, Vikram protested, the pieces finally falling into place. Those components came through a subsidiary. Kapoor's company acquired. He presented all the proper documentation. I know that now, Anya said quietly. I've spent months investigating, and I believe you were another victim of his deception, not a co-conspirator. Vikram leaned against the counter, processing the revelation. You came here for revenge. For justice, she corrected. But then, I met Vihan, and I saw how you've struggled to rebuild your life after losing your wife. I recognized the same grief I lived through after losing my father. And yet you continued investigating me. Yes, she acknowledged, until I was certain. And in the process, I began to care for both of you far more than I intended. The moment stretched between them, heavy with unspoken emotions. Vikram's phone buzzed with an incoming message. Pradeep says the financial markets in Singapore are already reacting to rumors. By morning, our stock will be in free fall. Anya opened her laptop again. Show me the exact allegations. As Vikram forwarded Pradeep's email, a sudden crash from Vihan's room shattered the tension. They both rushed down the hallway to find the boy on the floor beside his bed, his small body rigid with seizure. Call an ambulance, Anya instructed calmly, already moving to place Vihan in recovery position. It's happening again. Again? Vikram's voice cracked with fear. What do you mean again? He had an episode last month when you were in Singapore, she explained, checking Vihan's breathing. The pediatrician said it might be a one-time occurrence, but recommended neurological follow-up. Why wasn't I told? Anger and terror battled in Vikram's voice as he dialed emergency services. Vihan begged me not to worry you, Anya replied, her focus unwavering as she monitored his son. He said you already had too many problems at work. The following hours passed in a blur of hospital corridors and medical consultations. Dawn broke as they sat beside Vihan's hospital bed, the boy now sleeping peacefully after the doctors had run tests and administered medication. Febrile seizures, the neurologist had explained. Not uncommon in children his age, but we'll want to monitor him closely. In the quiet of the hospital room, corporate crises seemed suddenly trivial compared to the fragility of Vihan's small form beneath the white sheets. I should have been told, Vikram said finally, breaking the long silence between them. Yes, Anya agreed. That was my mistake. I wanted to protect both of you. Just as I've tried to protect him from my grief, Vikram realized aloud. We've both been hiding truths, thinking it was for the best. His phone buzzed repeatedly with crisis alerts from his executive team, but Vikram ignored them, reaching instead to take Anya's hand across Vihan's bed. The company can wait, he said firmly. This is what matters. Vikram, Anya squeezed his hand. Your company is Vihan's future. We can't let Kapoor destroy that while we sit here. She opened her bag, retrieving her laptop. I've been tracking Westridge's methodology for years. I know exactly how they manipulate financial data to create the appearance of impropriety. And more importantly, her eyes gleamed with renewed purpose. I have evidence of Kapoor doing this to 3 other companies, including my family's. Evidence that would stand up in court? Evidence that would stand up anywhere, she confirmed. I was saving it for the perfect moment to destroy him. Vikram studied her with new appreciation. And you think this is that moment? I think, she said deliberately, that saving your company means saving my family's legacy too. The technology he stole from us is embedded in your products. If Malhotra tech survives and thrives in some way, so does defies sustainable technologies. As morning sunlight streamed through the hospital window, Vikram made a decision. "Call your brother," he said. "We'll need all the allies we can get." 4 hours later, as Rohan Kapoor stood confidently before Malhotra Tech's board, presenting his case for emergency control, the boardroom doors opened to admit Vikram, Anya, and Nikhil Desai. "I apologize for my tardiness," Vikram announced, his voice carrying the quiet authority that had built his empire. "I was attending to my son's medical needs, but I believe Ms. Anya Sharma Desai has some information that directly pertains to today's discussion." Kapoor's expression flickered with momentary confusion, then hardened as recognition dawned. "What is the meaning of this, Malhotra? Who are these people?" "The ghosts of your past mistakes," Anya replied, connecting her laptop to the presentation system. "And the architects of your future downfall." As the evidence of Kapoor's systematic corporate sabotage appeared on screen, Vikram moved to stand beside Anya, their shoulders nearly touching. No longer employer and employee, but allies united by something deeper than business interests, bound together by truth, finally unraveled, and a shared dedication to the small boy waiting for them in a hospital room across town. Rewritten destinies. 6 months later, the terrace of Vikram's penthouse was transformed. Fairy lights twinkled overhead and laughter floated through the evening air as Mumbai's elite mingled with environmental activists and tech innovators at what the business press had dubbed the merger of the year. At the center of it all stood Vihan, proudly demonstrating a miniature version of the Desai Malhotra solar cell to an impressed group of scientists. The boy had blossomed in recent months, his seizures controlled with medication, his confidence growing under the nurturing presence of both Anya and his father. "He's quite the salesman," Nikhil observed, approaching Vikram with 2 glasses of champagne. "Takes after his father." Vikram accepted the drink with a smile. "Actually, I think he's channeling your sister, that passionate explanation of renewable energy, pure Anya." The 2 men had developed an unlikely friendship in the aftermath of Kapoor's downfall. With Rohan Kapoor facing multiple investigations for corporate espionage and securities fraud, Vikram had proposed something revolutionary. Merging what remained of Desai Sustainable Technologies with a new green energy division of Malhotra Tech, with Nikhil as its director. "Speaking of my sister," Nikhil nodded toward the edge of the terrace, where Anya stood alone, gazing out at the city lights. "Excuse me," Vikram said, making his way through the crowd. Anya sensed his presence before he spoke, a smile touching her lips as he joined her at the railing. "Quite a celebration," she remarked. "It should be," he replied. "Today marks the official launch of technology that should have changed the world years ago. Your father's legacy is finally being fulfilled." She turned to face him, emotion shimmering in her eyes. "Thank you for that. For all of it." In the months since their confrontation with Kapoor, their relationship had evolved into something neither had anticipated when Anya first walked into his office with a carefully constructed resume and a hidden agenda. The nanny position had officially ended, replaced by her role as Chief Sustainability Officer of the newly formed Desai Malhotra Green Technologies. Yet she had remained in the penthouse, her presence now essential to both father and son. "I have something for you," Vikram said, reaching into his pocket. "A gift to mark the occasion." He handed her a small velvet box. Inside lay not jewelry as she had momentarily feared, but a key. "What's this?" she asked. "The key to my family's summer home in Lonavala," he explained. "I haven't been there since Nisha died. It's been sitting empty, waiting for laughter to fill it again." Anya traced the key with her fingertip. "Why now?" "Because Vihan asked if we could go there next weekend, all 3 of us. He has memories of picnics by the lake with his mother, and he wants to share them." Vikram's voice softened. He called it a family trip. The word family hung between them, laden with possibility. "And what do you want, Vikram?" Anya asked quietly. He took her hand, the key pressed between their palms. "I want to stop living in separate worlds under the same roof. Business partners, by day. Something undefined by night. I want clarity." Before she could respond, Vihan bounded up to them, his exhibition apparently concluded. "Did you ask her? Can we go to Lonavala?" Anya knelt to his level, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Your father just invited me." "And?" Vihan prompted, his expression so serious it made both adults smile. "I think it sounds wonderful," she replied, ruffling his hair. "Yes," Vihan pumped his fist triumphantly. "I told Dada you'd say yes. I told him you wouldn't want to live somewhere else, even. Though you're not my nanny anymore." Anya blinked in surprise. "Live somewhere else?" Vikram cleared his throat, shooting his son a look that mixed amusement with exasperation. "I was planning to approach that topic with a bit more finesse. Dada says you need your own room with your own things, not just the guest room," Vihan continued, oblivious to his father's discomfort. "He says we should make it official." "Official?" Anya repeated, looking up at Vikram with questioning eyes. "Perhaps we could discuss the details privately," Vikram suggested gently to his son. "Why don't you go tell Uncle Nikhil about our Lonavala? Plans?" Once Vihan had scampered off, Vikram helped Anya to her feet, keeping her hand in his. "This isn't how I planned to have this conversation," he admitted. "I think we're well past carefully constructed plans, don't you?" Anya smiled. "Our entire relationship began with hidden agendas and secret identities." "Then let me be completely transparent now," Vikram said, drawing her slightly away from the crowd. "These past months have shown me what was missing in my life. Not just since Nisha died, but perhaps always. Someone who challenges me, who sees beyond the CEO to the man beneath. Someone who loves my son as fiercely as I do." "Vikram," Anya began, but he continued. "I'm not asking for an immediate answer. I know we've built this relationship on unusual circumstances. But I want you to know that when Vihan talks about making things official, it's because he's heard me thinking aloud about a future where you're not just living in our home but part of our family. Completely." Anya's expression softened. "When I came to your door that first day, I had a mission, a singular purpose driving every decision. I never imagined I would find a second chance at family, at belonging. Is that what we are to you?" Vikram asked, vulnerability evident in his question. "A second chance?" "No," she answered thoughtfully. "Not a second chance. A first chance at something entirely new. Something I never knew to look for until I found it." Across the terrace, Vihan had climbed onto a chair, tapping a spoon against his juice glass with all the authority of a seasoned executive calling a meeting to order. "Everyone," he announced to the amused guests, "I have important news. We're going to Lonavala next weekend, as a family." Laughter rippled through the crowd, but Anya and Vikram remained in their private bubble, her hand still in his, the key warm between them. "I should go rescue our guests from further announcements," Vikram said with reluctance. "Our guests," Anya repeated, savoring the word. "I like how that sounds." As he turned to leave, she held his hand a moment longer. "Vikram, my answer is yes." "Yes to Lonavala?" he asked carefully. "Yes to making it official," she clarified. "Whatever that means to you and Vihan. I've spent too long living in the shadows of the past. I'm ready for our future, whatever shape it takes." Later that night, after the guests had departed and Vihan was tucked into bed, they stood together in the kitchen, the comfortable domesticity of making tea a ritual they had perfected over months of late-night strategy sessions and early morning conversations. "Do you ever wonder," Anya asked, passing him a steaming cup. What would have happened if I hadn't applied for the nanny position? If our paths had never crossed? Vikram considered the question. I believe they would have eventually. Perhaps in a boardroom instead of my living room. Perhaps as business rivals instead of allies. You think our destinies were somehow intertwined? She asked, with a hint of teasing. That seems uncharacteristically fatalistic for a man who built an empire on strategic planning. Not fatalistic, he corrected, reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture intimate in its casualness. Hopeful. I'd like to think that some connections are powerful enough to find their way through any circumstance. Anya leaned into his touch. Like the connection between a grieving CEO and a vengeful financial analyst disguised as a nanny? Exactly like that, he smiled. Though when you put it that way, it sounds like the plot of one of those dramatic serials Vehan's grandmother watches. Life is often stranger than fiction. Anya laughed softly. As they moved to the living room, settling onto the sofa with the easy familiarity of those who have weathered crises together, Vikram reached for a folder on the coffee table. Speaking of our intertwined destinies, he said, these came today, the final paperwork for the Desai Malhotra Educational Trust. Anya opened the folder, emotion welling as she scanned the document outlining a foundation established in her father's name, dedicated to supporting young innovators in sustainable technology. This is what he always wanted, she whispered, to create opportunities for the next generation. It's what we both want, Vikram replied. A legacy that honors the past while building toward the future. The Mumbai skyline glittered beyond the windows, the same view that had seemed so empty to Vikram the night he'd received Anya's application. Now, with her beside him and Vihan sleeping peacefully down the hall, the lights of the city seemed to pulse with new promise. A visual reminder that endings often disguise themselves as beginnings, and that the most meaningful connections are forged in the crucible of shared purpose. To rewritten destinies, Anya said softly, raising her teacup in a toast. And to the truth that finally set us both free, Vikram added, touching his cup to hers. As midnight approached, they remained side by side, no longer defined by titles of employer and employee, no longer separated by secrets or divided by the shadows of past betrayals. They had emerged from the tangled threads of their histories into something new and uncharted, a shared future neither could have imagined when their stories first intersected, but one they now embraced with open hearts and intertwined hands.